First derived characteristic that all 7 of our organisms have in common is that they're made of cells. For the Volvox, this is the only connection it has to other members of our cladogram. The next derived characteristic is when gills appear and photosynthesis is no longer in use. The Daphnia, while being still microscopic, uses tiny gills to breathe underwater. From here, our cladogram branches off into specifically organisms who have limbs, the starfish and the crayfish. The derived characteristic contrasting these two organisms is that the starfish uses the water vascular system. The water vascular system uses channels to take in water and use the oxygen in the water to provide air for the starfish. Back on the main cladogram line before the starfish and crayfish diverged, the next characteristic was learning to breathe through skin and no longer possessing gills. Worms breathe through their skin only. After the worm, organisms have a derived characteristic of breathing underwater through their skin. Planaria have this trait, which helps them stay underwater. Finally, the frog at the end is unique because it has the derived characteristic of breathing through nares, which will be explained later in developing lungs.
This is the Volvox. This bundle of cells has the most basic respiratory system of all the other organisms in this presentation. This little guy breathes by exchanging gases in and out of its cell. And since it's an animal, it has to make its own food by photosynthesis. This particular Volvox belongs to the genus Volvox and the species Aureus. There's something really special about this plant. That is that it's a plant and it can move around. It accomplishes this by a bunch of individual Volvoxes come together to make a huge collection of cells called a colony. Then they slam their whip-like appendages together, called flagella, to move through the water.
The Daphnia is a type of aquatic crustacean. The Daphnia magna has gills. It will molt its shell as it grows and can detect the presence of carrier monads. It shows the health of the water if there are carrier monads, if there are more Daphnia than normal. Its niche includes living in freshwater environments or around rocks and being a filter feeder. It, being a filter feeder, can help control the number of organisms on the surface of the water. The Daphnia can only live in freshwater because it would die in salt water, hence previous lectures from Ms. Nakata. The taxonomy is listed in the bottom left-hand corner. It is adapted over a long amount of time, gaining the ability to survive and reproduce longer. Specific adaptations for the respiratory system would be breathing through its skin to obtain oxygen quicker, and the larger it is, the more skin surface the area it has to obtain the oxygen. We were unable to get the photos ourselves, but the ones we have are from Jonas Garda.
The earthworm, or specifically the Lumbricus terrestris, is a common decomposer in our world. These are pictures of the skin up close and farther away. The worm has many adaptations, one of them being it absorbs and loses moisture through its skin and uses diffusion to breathe. Because of this adaptation, the worm has very thin skin. It also includes other adaptations that are seen below. It lives in damp soil, and its niche, descriptions, and habitat are listed here as well as the taxonomy. Here I listed some of the basic derived characteristics. Photos of the worm show how we dissected the skin in the worm to see how thin it really was. As said before, worms are decomposers and therefore eat decaying matter. During the dissection, we discovered how the worm uses this adaptation to breathe.
Starfish, or Asteris rubens, are a type of echinoderms. They live in shallow water on the ocean floor where they eat and get eaten. An adaptation they have to easier eat is they can flip their stomach inside out for easier digestion of the clams they eat. Their taxonomy starts with the kingdom of Animalia and ends with the species of rubens as seen in the scientific name and on this chart. The starfish gets its oxygen in 2 ways. First, through skin gills or polyploidy that is located between the spines on a starfish. These gills diffuse oxygen into the starfish and carbon dioxide out of it. The starfish also obtains water through a water vascular system. The feet on the bottom of the starfish take water into the water vascular system and insert the water into the bloodstream. It is all connected through the channels going throughout the starfish. Each one of the starfish limbs has a channel, and they meet in a ring in the middle. They breathe this way because when they move, they will obtain more oxygen instead of losing it, which also applies to the crayfish that we dissected. Other interesting adaptations are the fact that starfish can regenerate amputated limbs, mainly due to predators, and they also have a hard shell to protect themselves against predators from being eaten.
The planaria, or specifically Gerardia tigrina, is very unique. In its list of derived characteristics, it can be the size of 3 to 50 millimeters, and when it is cut in half, it becomes two separate organisms, which helps the planaria reproduce to some extent. One of the reasons it has such a large size range in millimeters is to protect itself from predators, meaning more predators equals smaller planaria, and fewer predators equals larger planaria. A planaria's niche is aquatic environments, and it will eat small invertebrates and decaying organisms. Its diet is called zoogophagous, and it helps balance the ecosystem. Its taxonomy is located in the bottom middle. It has many adaptations, but it is important that the raspberry has adapted over time. The planaria have adapted to breathe through its skin in order to live underwater, and the scale of the size will have more if large and less if small, surface area, which will help with how much oxygen it obtains. The photos are not taken by us, but were given to us by Will Parker.
The frog, specifically the Lithobates palustris, is an animal in the Amphibia class. It survives on insects and aquatic invertebrates, and usually inhabits both aquatic and terrestrial area. Hunted by many predators, including snakes, fish, and raccoons, the frog developed defense techniques to survive. The Lithobates palustris produces a fatal secretion to protect itself from other small animals who prove themselves to be harmful. Out of all the organisms in our dissection project, the frog's respiratory system is most similar to a human's. Frogs have 2 lungs on either side of their heart and behind the liver, which is used as one of their 3 breathing techniques. Besides breathing with lungs, frogs can also breathe through one of their layers of skin and through nares, which are nostrils on the top of their head. Besides those 3 ways, baby frogs, or tadpoles, also breathe through gills, since they spend most of their childhood underwater. Crayfish, another organism we dissected, also have gills. Unlike the crayfish, frogs lose their gills as they grow older.
The crayfish, also known as the crawfish, crawdad, freshwater lobster, or by its scientific name, the Procambarus clarkii, is a very unique species and is often confused with the lobster. Unlike the lobster, this creature has the ability to live in both freshwater and saltwater conditions, as well as sometimes living on dry land. You may think, with such a variety of habitats, where does it get its food? What does it eat? The crayfish is considered an omnivorous scavenger, which means it eats the remains of both plants and animals. Its diet mainly consists of aquatic plants and insects, but the crayfish is also hunted by predators bigger than itself, like the raccoon, bass, otter, and herons. To help catch prey and avoid and defend itself from predators, it has 2 pinchers on its 2 front limbs. It has developed 3 main parts of its body: the cephalothorax, the thorax, and the abdomen. On each side of its thorax, it has 4 little legs that help it move around. The unique thing about the legs is that they are actually connected to the crayfish's gills. This is to help increase and keep constant flow of oxygen flowing through the body so that the crayfish can breathe. The crayfish not only can breathe underwater, but can breathe above the water too.